I played a song for the alien girl for the first time. She couldn't hold back her tears. The alien girl sat on the floor in the corner of the ship's common room. Long silver hair fell around her shoulders like flowing light. Her eyes, wide and bright, stared out the large window into deep space. Her name was Alira. No one knew how old she was in human years. They only knew she had no one left. Her ship had been found drifting near the edge of human space. A rescue team had pulled her from the wreck. There had been no one else alive. Alira was from a race called the Lyrae, a peaceful people. Their world had been full of sound and harmony. They sang together, shaping the air and light into beauty. Now her world was gone. The war had taken it. Humans had brought her back to their space station. They gave her food, clothes, and a room. But no one knew how to help her heart. She barely spoke. She barely moved. Ash. Every day she sat alone, staring into the stars. One of the station engineers, a young man named David, noticed her. He was not a doctor or a diplomat. He was just a man who fixed machines. But something about the sad alien girl pulled at his heart. David saw her every day in the common room. She never looked at the humans around her. She never smiled. She seemed lost. One evening, after a long day's work, David came into the common room. He carried an old guitar. It was battered, the wood worn smooth by years of use. He had brought it with him from Earth. Sometimes late at night he played songs too. Calm his mind, he sat on a chair not far from where Alira sat. He glanced at her, then looked down at his guitar. He began to play. Soft, simple notes filled the room. He did not sing. He just let the guitar speak. At first, he thought she did not hear. She stayed still, her gaze on the stars. But slowly, her head turned, her silver eyes rested on him. She watched his fingers move on the strings. David felt a little nervous, but he kept playing. The song was a quiet one, full of longing and gentle hope. It was a song from Earth, old and full of feeling. When he finished, silence filled the room. He looked up. Alira was sitting up straight now. Her eyes shimmered. Single tear slid down her cheek. David set the guitar on his lap. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I didn't mean to upset you." Alira's voice was quiet like the wind. "No, not upset. This sound it is. Alive." Her voice trembled. More tears came. "Thought I would never feel such sound again," she whispered. David swallowed. He wanted to help, but words felt small. "Would you like me to play more?" he asked gently. Alira nodded, a slow and careful motion. David picked up the guitar again. This time he played a new song. It's a soft melody, built from simple notes. It was not planned. It came from his heart. As he played, Alira's tears fell. But her face was peaceful, her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. In that moment, David saw her not as an alien, but as a lonely soul in need of kindness. And so he played on, filling the quiet room with gentle music. Something had changed. Something had begun. The days after the first song passed quietly, but something had changed. Alira was not the same. Before, she would sit alone, her silver eyes distant, lost in old memories. Now she followed him to the music room almost every evening. Her steps were soft, like the echo of forgotten songs. He noticed her name was Alira. It's one of the Lyran alien race that once made music with the air, with the light, with their very souls. Now, she was the last one. A refugee on a human ship, drifting far from any world she had known. He was called Mason. Just a ship's engineer, not anyone special. But now,
Ow.
She looked at him differently, as if he held something she needed. One evening, Mason was tuning his guitar. Alira stood behind him, watching his hands. Her voice was soft. "Do you always play alone?" Mason smiled. "Sometimes it helps me think." She nodded. Her silver hair shimmered under the lights. "Will you play again?" she asked. He picked up the guitar and began a slow melody. The notes were soft, like a gentle river. Alira sat close this time, her hands resting on her knees, her gaze calm. As he played, her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. When the song ended, there was silence between them. It's not a cold silence, a warm, peaceful one. Alira opened her eyes. "In my world," she said softly, "we did not use instruments, shaped the air with our voices, with our hearts." Mason set the guitar on his lap. "I'd like to hear that." She shook her head. "I cannot. Alone, it is broken. Our music was made by many, a harmony of souls." She looked down now. Only silence remains. Mason felt a tightness in his chest. "Maybe my songs can help," he said. "Even if it's not the same." Alira's silver eyes shone. "You already have." The next evening, she returned again. The next. She asked more questions now. "Why do humans make songs of sadness?" "Because sometimes sadness must be shared," Mason answered. "Why do songs end?" she asked one night. "Because even music must rest," he said. "But the feeling stays." Alira nodded. She was learning. One night she surprised him. She brought a small crystal, thin and glowing with a soft inner light. She held it gently and pressed it to her own forehead. Then, with care, she touched it to Mason's. In a moment, a memory filled his mind. A great chamber of light. Dozens of lyrae standing in a circle, their voices rising in waves. The air shimmered with living sound. The ground, the walls, all pulsed with music. It was not just heard, it was felt. It was their world, their way of life then.
Silence.
The memory ended. Mason's breath shook. "You miss it," he whispered. "Every moment," she answered. Her voice was small. He looked at her. "Then I will play. For you, as much as you need." For the first time, Alira smiled. Not wide, not bright, but real. A smile that reached her eyes, and Mason began again, a song of comfort, a song of hope. Night. After night, they shared the music. Slowly, Alira's voice began to hum with the notes. Faint at first, then stronger. She was finding her voice again, and Mason realized something. This was no longer about sorrow. This was about healing. For her, and maybe for him too. That night, something changed between them. For many days, the human his name was Daniel and the alien girl Alira had spent quiet hours together. She came to his quarters often now, always asking to hear more music. Daniel played song after song on his old guitar. The strings sang softly in the still air of the ship. Alira listened with her eyes closed, her long silver hair shimmering. Sometimes she cried, sometimes she smiled. But this night, Alira brought something new. She held a thin crystal shard. It was clear and smooth, almost like glass. It glowed faintly in her pale hands. She stepped close to Daniel and spoke in her soft voice. "This is a memory shard," she said. "It holds part of my past. Will you see?" Daniel nodded. "If you want to share it." Alira placed the shard gently on his forehead. At once, a vision filled his mind. He saw a great chamber of light. The walls shimmered, alive with color and sound. Dozens of Alira's people stood in a wide circle. Their voices rose together, not words, but pure sound, rich, deep, beautiful. Daniel could feel it. The air itself vibrated with the music. It wrapped around him like warmth, like life. The lyrae did not just sing, they became the song. Their voices and their bodies joined as one. Light and sound wove through the air, filling the space with harmony and peace. It was a feeling of joy, of home. Then the vision changed. The chamber grew dark. The voices stopped. The circle broke. One by one, the lights faded, till there was only silence. Daniel gasped as the vision ended. He opened his eyes to see Alira watching him. Her silver eyes shone with tears. "That was your home," Daniel whispered. She nodded. "It was everything. Our music was life. Now all is gone." Daniel's heart ached. He looked at his guitar, the simple wooden instrument from Earth. His music could never match what he had just seen. Alira still listened to him, still returned each night. "Do you miss it?" he asked softly. Alira's voice broke. "Every moment of every day." Daniel swallowed, felt her sorrow. deep in his chest. But he also felt something else, a need to help her, to give back even a small part of what she had lost. He picked up the guitar. "Then I will play for you. I will play as long as you need." Lyra's eyes widened. Slowly she nodded, so Daniel began to play again. The song was soft and slow. It rose gently, like the memory of a lost dream. Lyra sat close to him, her knees drawn up, her head bowed. As he played, something new happened. Lyra lifted her head. Her voice joined the music, very soft at first, a single clear tone that matched the melody. Daniel kept playing. Lyra's voice grew stronger. She sang no words, only sound, pure and bright. Her tone danced with the notes of the guitar. The two sounds blended, human strings and lyre voice. It was not like her people's song. It was something new, something shared. When the song ended, the room was silent. Lyra looked at Daniel with shining eyes. For the first time, she whispered, "I feel a small piece of my world again." Daniel smiled. "Then we will keep playing, together." And from that night on, they did. Each evening, Lyra came to him. Together, they made music part old, part new. A bridge between two worlds. And in the quiet of the deep space ship, for the first time in a long while, there was hope. That night, something changed between them. For many days, Lyra had only listened. She had watched the human, whose name was Daniel, with quiet eyes. She had asked him questions, curious about human songs, about feelings, about why some music made her chest feel heavy, while others made her breath quicken. But tonight was different. Daniel had worked for hours on a new song. He had written it for her, with no words, just sound. Sound of life, of hope. He sat in a small room with his old guitar. The light was low. Outside the ship's window, stars floated in the endless dark. Lyra came in silently, her silver eyes shining softly. She sat down across from him, her legs folded neatly under her. Her long hair shimmered in the dim light. Daniel looked at her and smiled. "This one is for you," he said. His voice was gentle. She gave a small nod, her tail curled around. Her side and her fingers rested lightly on her knees. Then Daniel began to play. The first notes were soft, like the quiet before dawn. The melody rose and fell, gentle and warm. It filled the small room, wrapping around them both. Lyra's breath caught. Her eyes closed. She felt the sound not just in her ears, but in her whole body, in her chest, in her bones. It was like the music was speaking to her in a language older than words. Her people, the lyre, had once sung in great halls of light. They had shaped the air with sound, filling their cities with beauty and peace. But now those voices were gone, lost. She had thought they would never return, but now something new was growing. She stood slowly. Her movements were graceful, like flowing water. Her arms rose, her fingers tracing soft shapes in the air. Her feet moved in a slow dance, her body swaying to the music. Daniel watched, his fingers moving over the guitar strings. He did not stop. He played for her. For her joy, tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks. But these tears were not of sorrow, of life. When the last note faded, Lyra stood still, her chest rising and falling softly. She opened her eyes. "You have given me back my voice," she said. Her voice was clear, strong. "I thought it was lost forever, but you helped me remember." Daniel set the guitar aside. He smiled again. "You are not alone, Lyra," he said. "Not anymore." She stepped closer. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and touched his hand. Her fingers were cool and light. In that touch, Daniel felt something deeper, a bond, connection, a new beginning. From that day forward, Lyra was different. She no longer sat alone. She joined Daniel often, sometimes bringing him small gifts, strange crystals, smooth stones from distant planets. Sometimes she would hum softly as he played. Her voice grew stronger. Her eyes shone brighter, and others noticed. The crew, at first distant, now watched her with new respect. They began to greet her, to smile. Some even listened to Daniel's songs, Sitting quietly with Alira, the music had become a bridge, a bond between two beings from different worlds, between a lonely alien girl and a human who played for her heart. One evening, as the ship drifted among the stars, Daniel played a new song. Alira sat beside him, her shoulder resting lightly against his. "This song," he said softly, "is for new beginnings." Alira smiled. "And for friendship," she added. He nodded, and as the gentle music filled the air once more, Alira's voice rose, soft but strong. For the first time, she sang her song, joining his, human and alien, together, and the stars beyond the window seemed to shine a little brighter.